Yes, you and I will be drafting a basic bodice pattern. Not only that, I'm going to make sure that you understand how to draft properly. I'm going to teach you the concept, the principle about drafting a basic bodice pattern according to your anatomy and according to the anatomy of your client. I would also be giving answers and shedding some light on some questions you have about pattern drafting. Once you understand it, you will be able to draft any basic bodice pattern for any dress you are making, because the normal basic bodice pattern we all know won't be suitable when you are making a blazer, a jacket, a wrap top, or even an antlers. You need to make some alterations on the neck depth, the neck width, the armhole, or even the body, as the case may be, so that it's going to fit into the particular dress we are making. So if that is something you are interested in, keep on watching and let's go into the body of this tutorial. To draft properly, you have to take note of these 4 measurements. 1. The vertical measurement. 2. Horizontal measurement. 3. Circumference measurement. The 4th, semi-circumference measurement. We are going to be using this ruler right here to illustrate what we mean by vertical and horizontal measurements. When we have a straight line going from our right to our left, we call that an horizontal line. And when we have a line that goes from up to down or down to up, we have a vertical line. And this is the measurement we'll be talking about now. The vertical measurement of the body has to do with from our shoulder, the apex of our shoulder, to our ankle. Since we are talking about a basic bodice pattern, we are only going to be taking from our shoulders to our hips. When taking your vertical measurement, you are basically determining the length, your length of your dress. And not only that, you will also be determining your body points. When you place your tape on your shoulder, you are going to place your tape on your apex part of your shoulder to get your correct measurement, because when we are done sewing and we notice some errors, it's not necessarily that we didn't sew it well. It might be because you didn't take your measurements correctly. Now make sure your tape is on the apex part of your shoulder. This is going to act as our shoulder line. That is the straight line that you see us mark at the top of the pattern paper. And then take it all the way down to your bust point. Your bust point is where your nipple is. Immediately after that, you are going to go down again to get your under bust point. Your under bust point is the point that is immediately below your bust point. Now after that, I'm going to stand up so that I'll drive my points home. After that, you're going to take your tape and you're going to get your waist. And my waist right here is 16 inches. Your waist is that deep curve around around the side of your belly. When you place your hands on your side, you are going to notice it's just immediately below your ribs. That is, at least that is where I know mine is. I don't know where yours is, but for plus size people, you cannot easily determine it's like that because of the flesh. So you're going to use your tailor sixth sense to determine their waist. So I'm going to take my tape from my waistline, and then from my waistline I'm going to go from my waist point, and then I'm going to go all the way down to my hip point. You see the way I took the horizontal measurement of my body, and as I took the horizontal measurement, I took note of the points. I took note of my bust point, my under bust point, which is 13. I took note of my waist, and I took note of my hip. The positions where my bust, my under bust, where all those points lies along the vertical level.
We are going to be drafting properly all what I just explained. The line I'm about to make at the top of my pattern paper is my shoulder line. My shoulder line is where I'll put my tape and then get all my vertical points and my length too. I'm going to take my ruler, go over to the other side and draw my vertical line straight down like this. This is our horizontal line, also the shoulder line, and this is our vertical line where we are going to be putting all our vertical points. Just like what I was explaining before, you are going to place your tape on the apex part of your shoulder line, and then you take your tape down and start taking notes of your vertical point. From my shoulder line to my bust point, we have 10 inches. From there to my under bust, we have 13 inches. And from my under bust to my waist, we have 16 inches. And then from my waist to my hip, I have 23 inches, which is the length of this pattern. Now, if you are drafting something that is longer than that, feel free to take it longer than beyond your hip line. I did the same thing to the other side so I can get a straight line. I'll use my ruler to mark all through. I'm going to label them now: my shoulder line, my bust point, my under bust point, my waist, and my hip. I'm so sorry that my camera cut off that part, but what I'm doing over there is not much. Before we go over to explain the other types of measurement, let's undo the upper part of our bodies first. Now I'm going to be marking my neck. This is a basic neck. We are drafting a basic bodice, so we are putting a basic neck. The basic measurement for the neck is 3 inches wide and 3 inches deep. Now, see, if you don't have a French curve, you can use your free hand to connect those points, or you can use my style where I create a cube around those points like that. And then I'm going to bring in my pencil and create a smooth curve around it like this. This will give me a perfect neckline without a curve. And then I'll go in with my marker to highlight those points I just made. We are going to get our shoulder width, which I'll be explaining as the video proceeds. Mine was 14 inches. We are dividing that by 2, and I'm making my point right there. Now we are going to go down by 1 inch on that point to get our shoulder slope, and then I'm going to connect from there into my neck width. On our shoulder slope, we are going to get a line that will act as our chest and also act as our armhole. How do we do that? You take your bust measurements divided by 6 and you add 1.5 to it. Mine was 7 inches. I'm going to mark it like that. This measurement works perfectly for me, but when I need more ease, I add half an inch to it. With your ruler, you are going to connect from that point to your shoulder slope like that, and that straight line is going to act as our armhole curve. On that point, you are going to rule a straight line out, and that straight line is going to act as your chest line. You can decide to roll it all the way in, but there is no need for that because I'm not making any adjustments to that. But for this video purpose, for clarity, I'll just roll it in with a pencil. If you are making some kind of cloth like bustier or tube dress, you could go down on your chest line by some inches to reveal more cleavage, or you can go up to cover to get more coverage. To get our armhole curve, put your tape on your chest line straight to your shoulder slope. Get the middle of what you have. I have 7 inches. 7 inches divided by 2 is 3.5. If you are getting a strange figure, let's say 0.675, a number like that, you can go ahead to just divide the tape on your pattern paper to get your point. It will still give you the same figure. Okay, now on that point, you are going to go in by half of an inch. I'm going to explain why we have this as the video proceeds. I'm just bringing that in with my pencil to make it more obvious on the pattern paper. To complete our armhole curve, on your chest line, you are going to measure your bust round circumference divided by 4, and you place your measurement right on your chest line where you are going to be connecting your armhole to. Mine gave me 8.2. My bust is 33. 33 divided by 4 will give you 8.2. I'm just going to mark that point on my chest line. I'll connect from my chest line to my armhole depth to my shoulder slope. If you have a curve, go ahead and use your curve. If you don't have, go ahead and use a free hand. You can use my method where I just do it like this, and then after doing that, I'll just connect the curves to my armhole depth with my marker slowly like this.
The horizontal measurement isn't something that is much. The only horizontal measurement I think we might have is the measurement we take from one of our nipple to the other of our nipple. This we call nipple to nipple measurement. This is taken horizontally from our left to our right.
We are going to be practicalizing what we just learned on our pattern paper. The reason why we get our nipple to nipple measurement is for the creation of our dart, to know exactly where it lies under each bust. My nipple to nipple measurement is 7 divided by 2. We have 3.5. I'm going to mark it on my hip line, my waistline, my under bust line, and my bust line. I'll connect those points together in a straight line with my ruler. Always keep in mind that we take our dart measurements on the waistline. On that line, I'm going to go in on both sides by half of an inch. But if you are of a bigger size, you can add something to it. Let's say 0.6, 0.7, or you can even use 1 inch on both sides. Give 1 inch on both sides. On your bust point, you go down by 1 inch. We go down by 1 inch so that our dart will not be directly on top our bust, so that it's not going to have this pointy look. Then on the hip line, you go up by 2 inches or 3, but I decided to go up by 2 inches. And then I'm just ruling those points out to make it more clearer on the camera. From that point, I'm going to connect with my ruler to the half inch I gave on the side and connect to the point I went up by 2 inch on the hip line. I'll connect same way on the other side to get my dart.
Circumference measurement is when we are taking our measurement all around, 360 measurement. To really drive this home, I'm going to introduce our friend, Anita. Here comes Anita. If you're Anita and you're watching this, you have to subscribe. Anita will be helping us to drive this illustration home. From our bust to the point where our legs started from. These are the points that we are going to be taking our circumference measurement. And every measurement we take on those points will be divided by 4 on our pattern paper. The bust point, which we are taking a circumference measurement, will be divided by 4. Under bust point will be divided by 4. The waist will be divided by 4. And also the hips will be divided by 4. If you want to measure the circumference of your shoulder, you only do that when you are drafting off-shoulder shirt or an off-shoulder gown. And if you want to get an accurate measurement, you have to just take your back measurement to act as your shoulder measurement. That is, from one, you can notice a shoulder bone. From there, take it across your back and place your tape on the other end of your shoulder bone. You will feel it when you do like this. And then you divide that by 2. When we are taking our circumference measurement, we'll take it across the horizontal levels. This is an horizontal level because it's left to right. So we have to take it all across. The under bust is an horizontal level, which we are taking our circumference measurements from all around it. The same goes for the waist and same goes for the hip.
Abeg ye, all this talk and all this grammar don't too dey long. Abeg, let's get into the practical aspect. On your bust point, you take your circumference measurement all around your bust point too. You divide it by 4, you impute your measurement. The under bust, I'm not going to be taking my under bust because it's not necessary for this body's pattern. On my waist, I'm going to do the same thing. Take my circumference measurement, divide it by 4, put a mark there. I'll measure my dart intake, which was 1 inch. I'll put it back, and then I'll go down to my hip line, and I'll put my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll mark it right there. With a ruler, we are going to be connecting the points we just made from our chest line to our bust point, the bust point to the waistline, and the waistline to our hip line. I didn't add any stitching allowance to this. You can choose to add it directly while drafting your pattern, or you can add it when cutting on your fabric. I'm just going to label this front pattern and let us move ahead to the next thing. Before we move on to the next thing, let us quickly cut our pattern paper. Kindly take note of how I'm cutting, take note of your curves, take note of your edges, and that will be it. We are done with our front pattern. This is how beautiful it looks. Before we talk about the semi-circumference, let's quickly draft the back pattern. We'll start with our shoulder line. On the center back, I'm going to go in by 2 inches. You can use 1.5 inch for your zip allowance, but I'm going in by 2 inches on mine. And then I'm going to roll a straight line to connect those points. The center back and the center front of your pattern should always be on fold, because when you are cutting on your fabric, you are folding your fabric into 2. I will label it as my zipper allowance. I'm going to speed it up right here because I'm doing exactly what I did on the front pattern. The point where I feel like there is a difference between what I did in the front and what I did in the back, I'm going to slow it down and I will explain further. The neck for the back pattern is different from the front pattern. The neck width for the back and front remain the same, which is 3 inches, while for the back neck depth, we go down by 1 inch. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you notice that the front neckline is deeper than that on the back. That's why the back doesn't have much neck depth like the front. The armhole for the back is also different from the armhole of the front. Measure your armhole length and divide what you have by 2, just like what we did on the front. But the difference between this one is you are not going in by ½ inch, and then on your chest line, you impute your bust measurement and you connect those points with your curve like this. If you want to know the reason for this difference, watch to the end of this video because I explain in details why we go in by ½ inch for the front and we don't go in by the same ½ inch on the back pattern. The points on the back which are different from the front, I'm going to indicate that with X for more clarity. Get your nipple to nipple measurement and connect the points. When drafting the back pattern, you don't go down by 1 inch on the bust points like we did on the front, but you go up by 2 inches on the hip line like we also did on the front, and you come out on both sides on the waistline by ½ inch, and you connect the same way we did for the front pattern. I'll go ahead to impute my round circumference measurement, my bust point divided by 4, waist divided by 4, put back my dart intake and connect to the hip round circumference. The parts which are drafted differently from the front neckline, I will be marking with an X. I'll extend my waistline into my zipper allowance like this. I will go in by ½ inch on my zip allowance. I will also go in by the same ½ inch on my center front line, the way you see me do. On those points we just made, carefully blend it upwards into the neckline and blend it downward into the hip line. Just watch me closely. We are doing this to prevent the zip from budging. When cutting, I'm going to cut off the point I marked XXX. This is our back pattern. I'm going to extend the chest line in with my pencil the way I did for the front. And what I'm doing here is I'm just showing you the difference between the back pattern and the front pattern. It's at the point where I was editing this video I noticed I made a mistake. On your chest line, let's make that obvious by rolling it out with our marker. Get your nipple to nipple measurement and connect it with the one we already have like this. And then on my chest line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. I'm going to take my ruler or from that point and connect it to my waist dart the way you see me do.
If you have watched to this extent, bring the camera closer. If you have watched to this extent and you have not subscribed, should you want to see me on my knees? If it's like that, I will do. Please subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, and share it to the people that will need this. And it will also help the YouTube algorithm push it to people that are also in need of a video like this. Who knows who might need it? When we are talking about semi-circumference measurement, the only points we should keep in our minds is the shoulder, which I've already explained when I was explaining the circumference, our hands, our arms, and also our legs. I already explained the shoulder when I told you that you put your tape one end to the other end of your shoulder bone and you divide it by 2. When you are taking the measurement of your hand, you take the vertical measurement first. And when you take the vertical measurement straight to your length, where you want it to get to, you start to take note of your points. The major points that we have on our arms is the starting point, which is the shoulder line. We have the bicep, we have the elbow, and we have our wrist. Those are the main points we should take note of on the vertical level. And then those points we just marked, with the exception of our shoulder line, we're going to take the round circumference of each of those points. The round circumference of your bicep, round circumference of your elbow, round circumference of your wrist, and you're going to divide them by 2. For our legs, you have to take note of points also. You have to take note of your lap, take note of your knee, take note of your big stem, and you also take note of your ankle. The big stem is that fat place we have on our legs above, beneath our knee. And then those points, you are going to measure the round circumference of those points, and you are dividing it by 2. That is why we are naming those points the semi-circumference, because we are not dividing them by 4 like what we have on our body. We are dividing them by 2. Why do we go in by ½ inch on our armhole measurement? Anything that we are doing with our arms, we do it to the front. As I'm demonstrating and illustrating, I'm moving my hands to the front. When I'm cooking, I'm moving my hands to the front. When I'm washing, my hands is always to the front. I've not seen anybody that what he or she does is to the back. Why do we go in by that ½ inch? It's to increase our mobility of our arms when we want to do something in our front. To reduce folding also, because if you don't remove that ½ inch, you are going to notice that you are going to have a lot of folds, which will make your dress looking not attractive, not beautiful. And the reason why we don't remove such that ½ inch from our back is our back is kind of much more wider. Is wider than our front. The back also has to be able to support the movements we make to the front. That's why we have to not remove that ½ inch from the back, so that they will not have a lot of, it won't be tight at the back when we are trying to make our movements to the front. I hope you get what I'm saying. When we go down by 1 inch on our shoulder slope, this is quite simple to know. You notice that wow, it's not a straight line. It's not a straight line, it's actually like this. It's bent. But when you are drafting, you have to take note of your anatomy and the anatomy of the person you are drafting for. I know of someone that doesn't have a shoulder slope. The person's shoulder is straight all the way like this. So you can't read when you are drafting for such a person and you reduce the shoulder by 1 inch to get your shoulder slope. That's going to be problem for that person. So you have to be subjective. Okay, you don't have to carry what everyone is saying and use it for yourself or for your clients. You have to take note of your body, and if it works for you, good. And if you notice it doesn't work, change. Okay, I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye.